You're always good with
with the
the
intros.
way it wake you up intro.
Yo, because remember back in the day when oh damn, yo,
we would say our names and then no one would say anything
it
after
would
that.
just be like nothing. It would be
Yeah.
blank. So I'm sure if
Hmm.
people turned on the pod, they'd be like, "Yo, is this shit? Was my phone working? Like, what the fuck
Right.
is going on?" No, you're here. You're here with the fatherhoods. Well, two of the three of us, anyway.
Yep. That's how it
Um,
goes sometimes.
that's how it is. But we're here. Um, why don't we
So
start? Yeah, go ahead.
no,
Go
you
ahead.
you go. I think we've got we had a kind of a non fatherhoodish topic pop off last week.
I don't know. I
I
think
don't know
that's
how we
very. I think
I
it's
guess it
very
is.
fatherhood.
I guess it is. Like, how do you feel about yourself, right? As a dad and your looks and do you feel old? Like, what is what does
Yeah,
all that mean? So
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I think we do ourselves a disservice sometimes because and this is, I mean, this is par for the course, right? Like we don't think about ourselves a lot or enough, give ourselves enough of importance to like talk about like shit going on in our own personal minds that might be affecting the way we perceive ourselves, right? And so one of those conversations was last week. If you tuned in, you'll pick up right where we left off. But if you didn't, go check that out. Um, and I was just asking Kay and EFN about them going bald and kind of when the turning point was for them. And so, because in my own head, I'm like, yo, I mean, I've been struggling with the whole deciding to go bald thing for years now.
Have you? That's been something that you've been toying with.
Yeah, I've
Okay,
been thinking
okay,
about it for a long
okay.
time,
All right.
and it's just because like yo, like the hair ain't falling the same. Like I've been doing the faux hawk thing for a minute,
Right.
and I can like comb over enough to like hide certain things, but sometimes like last week, like I just couldn't figure it out. Like yo, the hair was laying wherever the hell the hair wanted to lay, and then
Right.
it was like Moses parting the sea. Like this shit was like bald. So I finally was like, yo, okay, what's the deal, son? Like, talk to me, bro. But it was I was pretty much on the way to like doing something. My initial intention was like, yo, let me trim this thing as low as possible and just see my head shape. Like, do
Well,
I
let me ask you
have
this: did you go and get a haircut right after? I felt like it was right after the same day, or was it the next day that you went and did it?
nah, it was a few days later.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, yeah, so I got a haircut. Here, I'll show you. I'll show you what it looked like. I mean, I showed you.
Right. Boom.
Yo,
There it
that's
is.
That's Manny
Right.
fresh and so bald.
All right.
So yeah, if you're not checking us out on on the website fatherhoodspod.com, you're not gonna be able to see the video. Actually, you could check it out on YouTube also. But I decided, yo, it was time. And
Refreshing.
yo, son, I can't even tell you. I can't. I mean, I can't. I guess I can because when you went bald, you probably felt that same relief. But thought I would be more like, oh, like feeling weird and
Yeah.
fucking wanting to hide shit. But the biggest thing for me finding out was like, yo, my head shape
It's all right.
is all right.
So you're good. Yeah. Yeah.
That was my biggest like concern. So anyway, so I
So
did it.
did you tell your kids you were going to do it, or did you come back and then you just surprised them with it?
Yeah, it's been a conversation in the household because I've been threatening to do this shit for years.
Right.
And they're like, all right, whatever, dad, whatever. And I finally was like, yo, I'm gonna get a haircut. I'm about to drop this thing down. And they were like, what do you mean? So I was like, no, I'm gonna get a fade and I'm start with that and see where it goes. But that was my intention. I sent my barber a picture. I was like, yo,
Hmm.
this is what I'm looking for. Can we do it? And he's been like pushing me away against it.
Right.
And finally he knew how much I was just like frustrated with it. So he was like, yeah, fuck it, let's go. And when he hit me with the machine and I saw really what was going down, I was like, this fade ain't gonna be it, dog. I gotta go lower.
Hmm.
So he hit me with the half all the way around, and that was basically bald. So but next step is just gonna be I'm just gonna take it all the way down. So
Yeah.
I told them it was gonna be a fade. Came home, they were like, yo, like the reaction was hilarious.
Right.
But my eldest, she was like scared to even look at me. Then she opened her eyes and was like, oh, I like it. because
Mm-hmm.
everybody's reaction was like, "Yo,
Right.
your head shape is good."
Right.
So, but yeah, everybody, I guess it's normalized now. It's been a few days.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm trying to figure out now is how to keep the head clean shaven in a way that's not gonna fuck me up, like cutting me, but also I'm gonna get it really, clean shaven. So
Mm-hmm.
the follow up question for you from last week, now that we're here, how do you maintain your baldy as crisp as possible?
Straight. Yeah. Do you razor blade?
The straight razor,
Yeah. Not the
not like
joint that's
not a bic.
no, not the like one razor, like the old school
The barber
one
joint, not
razor
that
blade.
one.
No, no, no. I'm not
Oh,
I'm,
okay.
I'm not skilled to do that.
Yeah, that shit's difficult. You fuck
Probably
you
no.
fuck your shit up.
But I did do a search one day for like best kind of disposable razors or handheld razors for baldies, and so I bought some of those.
Okay.
They seem to work fine. For me, I probably got to do it like
Three
every
or four
two
days.
days, something like that, just to keep
Okay.
it if I want to keep it clean.
Fresh.
Yeah, and then you just got to be careful with how you do it, and
Razor bumping
yeah,
and whatnot.
that kind of thing. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I gotta do some research on some razors, disposable razors. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask you to share with me through text what that is that you use because you probably don't even remember what the brand is at this point.
Yeah, I don't, and I don't even know, and I don't know if those are the best ones or not. I did that. I just tried them, and they seem to be working okay.
And then when you get to the beard joint, like the sideburns, you just kind of like make a decision and just go up from there.
Yeah, figure out which length is, and then fade it in.
Oh, you actually wait with the razor?
No, with the
Oh, with the
with the
machine.
electric. Yeah, with the
Got it,
electric
got
one.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, damn, you like a barber and shit. Okay. All
I
right.
mean, if you go to the barber still for your beard, then he can just fade it into the.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna
But
still do that. Still do
hmm
that. But anyway, I feel really good.
good.
Um, and it's kind of nice. Like I feel bald people now, when they're like, "Oh shit, my head's cold," and then you
Hmm.
wrap your shit up. It's kind of a pleasant experience,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
Like that
yeah.
little chill. I'm like, "Oh, I feel that shit. All right, let me go get my Scully and keep it moving."
Hey, as a dad, you got to feel good about yourself because it just makes your interactions with everyone else that much better.
And it in your authentic self, right? Because I was
Hmm.
like dodging this thing for a minute, and even like I wasn't ever gonna pull the trigger on it, but I was looking at like where's hair replacement technology now, right? And what is how difficult is it? I actually spoke with a guy. He has a really popular YouTube channel. It's called AM Hoops for those of you that frequent YouTube and love the NBA. Dope dude. He's another father. Maybe we'll have him on the pod one day. But he actually posted a video, and I hope I can remember to link it in the description. This might be useful to those of you that are maybe thinking about hair replacement surgery. He was balding for a minute. He just went bald and kind of was doing his videos, and you saw it. I guess he didn't like the way that looked. So at some point, he went and he did the surgery. He said he would never do that shit again.
Mm,
He's got a great head of hair, like it looks amazing, but
yeah.
the torture that he had to go through in order to
Oof.
get that shit was, he documented a lot of it. So yeah,
Yeah, it's funny how I mean, really, to each their own, right? Because,
yeah,
but I am not. I was not super invested in. Oh my God, I don't have any hair, so I didn't. It wasn't like a huge thing for me. But I guess there's plenty of people where it's like, fuck, if I lose my hair, it's shit's
yeah.
over.
That's it's
So.
it's it's part of your identity, right?
Hmm.
And so I could see how difficult that is to get rid of. But anyway, shout out to Casey Kiernan from AM Hoops for sharing his story and helping me at least understand what that experience was like. Because I wasn't really gonna go with it, but when he really like broke it down, I was like, chill, kid.
Yeah, yeah,
Anywho, so that's where we're at with that.
cool. Now let's talk about some fly dad interaction.
Word. So as you guys know, if you don't know by now, go check out flydadgear.com. And if you don't need a baby bag for yourself, I'm sure you know somebody who's having a child sometime soon that may be wanting the flyness that we have to offer there. But as part of being an entrepreneur and kind of helping dads through Fly Dad, um, I try to have conversations with customers of ours for a multitude of reasons, but really like as part of my community building strategy, right? And genuinely, I want to know like, why did you buy the product? What life stage are you in where you found it necessary? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Like, and what do you do for like who are you? Right? What's fatherhood been like for you? Like, I'm really interested in knowing because, like we do here, our interactions help inform how I proceed in parenthood. And a lot of things I'm thinking about, you guys might be thinking about, but there's a lot of things also that you're thinking about that I'm not. So it helps, my own personal development. So I spoke with one of my customers recently, and they had bought the bag a while back. And their bag happened to have like it tore,
Hmm.
right? And he was kind enough to let us know because sometimes people experience something with a product and they don't say anything. You assume everything is cool. They're probably shitting all over you because it didn't work out the way they intended. But he reached out. We replaced it with
Mm-hmm.
a new one immediately,
Right.
and he kind of checked back in like 9 months later and was like wanting to have a conversation. I was like, cool, perfect. He told like in his line of work, he travels a lot internationally and all over the place, and so he gets to bring his child with him, and he's doing all this travel with the bag, and he was expressing how well it held up. you know, I mean, you imagine going from plane to plane, country to country, like thing can get, knocked around quite a bit.
Right.
And he's like, it's really saved him, like in a lot of cases. But so whatever, we're building, talking, and I'm about to like close the conversation because we had been rapping for a minute and I didn't want to take up too much more of his time. And he stopped me. He was like, yo, can I ask you one more question? And it took him a little bit to get the question out. And I started to note like his voice started to change and like tears starting to roll down his
Oh,
eyes.
wow. Really?
Yeah, it was deep, man. And he's a Caucasian gentleman. Um, he's married to a lady of color, and he you could tell like this is like something deep within him. Like he's so concerned about how the world, particularly in this country, in the US, how his child has to contend with the outer world, especially because of their complexion. And again, he's a Caucasian male, grew up in this country, never knew what it was to have to face anything around his complexion, skin tone. Like life was relatively steady for him when it comes to that side of things. And he asked my advice. He was like, "Yo, you're a Hispanic male that grew up in this country, like, and you have kids of color. Like, how do you navigate the ugly world that we have to deal with in this country?" And I was, first and foremost, like I was like, wow, you think that much of me that you would ask me that question, right? Because like that's a pretty personal
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of told him a little bit about my own experience growing up in the Bronx and like some of the shit that I had to deal with, and how we prepare our kids for the world that's around them, especially living now in a place that's predominantly white. To this day, God, thank God, we haven't had any issues when it comes to race, but it's you kind of expect it when you're a person of color. And so we've been preparing our kids for a long time around essentially building up their confidence, right? And like explaining to them, yo, the world is like this. For people like us, the world tends to lean this way. That doesn't mean that you need to treat people any different than the way they treat you until something happens where that's warranted. Because what I want to avoid also is like I'm a big believer, like, yo, yeah, race shit happens and it's part of society, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And if you could break it down to its most basic level, like if I treat you well, the reciprocating effect is probably very high. And so a lot of kids may look past, some of that stuff, but you're going to run into some shit. And I told him, look, you can only do what's in your control. and you and your lady need to stand up and kind of show what it is that your family signifies to your community and to your child. So if you're out and about, the way you treat each other and the way you treat other people is going to play a more significant role in how they develop and how they're able to kind of start to develop those tools than if you just like fearmonger or like just accept, the media and the perception of things and the true, true things that occur. Like there's a lot of foul shit. Those can be points of education, but it doesn't have to be the way their reality is shaped. And he was appreciative of my feedback. And I was like, yo, I'm dealing with this shit every day, the fear of it every day. Right. And it's just a matter of like you figuring out where to focus your attention, time, and energy so that you're not attracting that negativity, but more so combating it. So, anyhow, I wanted to share that because I'm sure there are plenty of parents out there that are thinking the same things or trying to cope with the same things. I can't claim to have the solution. I don't know if there is one. But even in your case, okay, like you got a blended, a mixed family as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think of, because I'm sure that thought has crossed your mind from a culture perspective. I mean, how do you guys think about it?
Yeah, we talk pretty openly about it, and I think the overall concept I know is totally confusing for my son when we talk
Yeah.
about things. And he's going to be maybe at first glance some might say, oh, okay, he's a white boy, right? And then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but then I don't know, you just never know what kind of circumstance you're going to be in and how nuanced people are going to really take things or want to learn more about you. And so um I think he's just trying to figure out, like, well, what am I? Like,
Mm,
where do I land? And I think part of that is also just like in call it mixed households, for lack of a better term. It's like, what is kind of culturally, what's the most like prevalent, I guess, culture, right? That's within the household. What does everyone kind of vibe to the highest? Um and I think that starts to help determine like how people affiliate themselves or say like, I'm this or I'm that, or you know.
oh, you mean like in that? So, for example, in my house, my wife is Cuban, I'm Dominican. You're saying if the Cuban culture was more prevalent in our house, they would identify more Cuban and kind of use that as their.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just saying. I mean, this is just in a total general level, right?
Yeah.
Because again, even if we're talking like, if it's a household where it's white and Latino, and the Latino side is maybe that's the culture that's celebrated more, or everyone feels a little bit more connected to, then that helps define like, okay, Latino over being anything else, or
Got it. Yeah.
yeah, it's weird because as these kids, in some instances they have to pick side like they have to pick sides in a sense. Some sides are just going to be given to them depending on what their complexion is.
Yeah.
um and so it's kind of, yeah, it's confusing to try to discuss and say, try to get them to understand, like, well, this is how it all operates. And the more that he's been exposed to, just in terms of like how race and culture really plays out, you know here in the States, and then it's often different across the globe too,
Yeah.
in certain instances. But it's eye opening. It's like, oh shit. And then even at school at this point in time, he's coming back like, he's like, yo, some of these kids are like saying racist shit, and
Word.
I don't even know if they know what they're saying, or they think it's funny. And it's like, man, I don't think this is funny. And what's interesting is that it's like, it'll be a group of kids from all races, that are saying shit and they're all thinking it's funny. And he's scratching his head like, wait a second,
like you shouldn't be co-signing that, bro. Like,
right.
why are you
Yeah,
saying that
yeah.
shit?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
That's so, and that, like, I'm just thinking back to my own childhood, and you could probably come up with similar examples. That was pretty common in my world, right? Like the Hispanic kids would get a certain type of flag, the black kids would get a certain type of flag, and we all kind of like play on each other a little bit, right? And get on each other's cases in a similar way. Never with ill intent, but what was being said was foul.
Right.
But again, to your point, like I don't think we really understood the complexity of what we were saying. It was just like, bullshitting, really.
Right.
Now I'm sure it still happens. You just gave, a testimony basically that your son's saying.
Yeah, it
But
definitely
does
happens.
but does your son feel like he's being targeted in any harsh way? Like, because bullying doesn't necessarily mean there's a racial component to it, even though it could, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Does he feel like the race thing is out of control in his grade or in his
Mm,
circle of friends?
yeah, I think he thinks it's and it might just be the age, but it's definitely it's coming from where we came from in LA and then coming here. Like he didn't really hear any of that kind of talk
Okay,
in LA, even though it's gonna
you can hear
it's
it
good
everywhere.
yeah, it's gonna be everywhere. But then here, and I think it might just have more to do with the age at this point, where the kids are hearing more shit or they're just talking more shit in general.
Okay,
And so, yeah, I think he's hearing it more, and he's trying to figure out like how people are using things with funny intent versus like an ill intent, you know, like
he's
even
still
it,
trying to figure that out.
yeah, just like what where are people
What's
coming
behind
from
it?
with it. Yeah, I mean, he knows there are certain things that if someone says, it's just, no matter if it's jokey or not, and depending on who's saying it, like
It's bad,
that's a non-starter, right?
right?
Um, but yeah, I mean, he's trying to figure out like, okay, um, because if someone because he is mixed, right? From and so even it's like if someone says, "Oh, you're white," is he taking that as a diss or is he taking that as like
A
he just
compliment almost.
yeah,
Yeah,
because you just don't even know like how to process that, because
yeah.
you kind of don't really know what that all means, right? Well, what does that mean? Like, but I also am this, and this is kind of what you know I I'm
Kind of
more
identify more.
familiar with, yeah,
Yeah,
identify with more, and so it's almost like you gotta explain yourself, but at such a young age, the explanation, no one
yeah.
really understands and shit. And or it's like, you hear he'll say, hear some white kids talking some shit about, you know, maybe they're saying some derogatory black shit, and then the black kids might say something derogatory about Latinos, and so he's scratching his head like, wait, what is,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
what's going on? And
Hold on,
so
let me
yeah,
catch up.
he's coming back to me, and then and then other kids are saying shit about Asians, and it's just it's like
Keeps going.
yeah, so he's just trying to figure out like, but then the confusing thing is a lot of times they'll all these different kids will be there together and they're all popping the shit at the same time. And so he's
Yeah.
like, what is going on?
I mean, that's very familiar to me. I could think back to high school, like it would be like a group of Latino kids and then black kids, Asian, all sorts of shit, and it was kind of like that, like like shots fired across
Right.
to each other, and
Right.
it would be all like in jest or whatever, and then after lunch we just go kick it and do whatever we was doing. But it was like it almost felt like me growing up in the Bronx. The way I took that was almost like an education on how to be quick witted. the context was
That's for sure.
foul.
Yeah. Yeah.
The context was foul, but
Hmm.
it taught me to how to like, all right, you took a shot at me. All right, cool. Let me process that. All right, now I'm gonna go get you similar at a similar level, or if I want to kill that, I'm gonna go for the jugular, right?
Right.
And sometimes it might bring your mom's into the picture, it might
Right.
bring your ethnicity, all that kind of stuff. Again, not condoning it, but it was a tactic to try to sharpen your tool set a little bit so that you can move in the streets in a way where you almost had like this guard up, so you try not to get affected too much by all the shit that was coming at you.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this though: do you find that the kids now, from your son's perspective, or the things you know about your son, how he moves in school with his friends or whatever, like they're more welcoming, endearing, like almost like a healthier child dynamic than what you remember?
I don't know. I don't know, to
Okay.
be honest with you, because I felt like my experience was a little more on the extreme side of things. Like, you know, come from a city environment where everyone's pretty diverse. Come to a more isolated area where it's predominantly white, and and then I then that was a big shock just from being in one spot, and the mentality was totally different. Um, and then I just kind of bounced around to extremes of like, okay, you know, who I'm rolling with, how I'm rolling, and I think with him, so I can't really, I don't think I could compare. I don't think I could compare the two. Um,
I raised it because my biggest concern before we moved where we live now was how overwhelmingly white this area is, right?
mm, yeah,
And so we were very strategic about making the decision to pull the trigger to live here. And so we basically kind of fake moved over here for almost a month. So lived out of a hotel and try to assimilate ourselves into the environment. I would commute into the city from here,
right,
like shop in those local stores, go to restaurants, do everything that we would normally do in a place we lived, to see a what the reaction was, b how people interacted with themselves, but also potentially with us, and just to feel the general vibe of the community. And luckily, like all those things checked out, and then we felt comfortable enough to move. Not everybody has that luxury, right? And so, but still, the one big variable for us was like, all right, the integration into the school system and how's that going to play out. And I remember like I felt like the first week, my daughter at the time was in fourth grade. The other two kids weren't yet in school. She went to school, and that first week, we got a call from one of the parents
mm,
saying that the my our daughter wasn't being friends with another girl in her class. And and I was looking at my wife like, wait, did our daughter do something to this kid? And the other mom was like, no, she just doesn't want to be her friend. I was like, so what the fuck is the problem?
right,
I don't understand.
yeah,
So that kind of right there kind of put us in the spot. I was like, fuck, did we fuck this up? Because if this, and again, that wasn't racial or anything. It was just like,
yeah,
it's just like kid bullshit, I guess, at the end of the day, but it rubbed us the wrong way. So that got remedied real fast, and they weren't friends, but they were cool with each other, cool enough.
hmm hmm
And then the next concern was like, yo, all right, how's the race piece of this going to play out? Right. Our daughter's, she's darker than I am. So I was immediately concerned. And what I found was, yo, a lot of every kid that I'm aware of that she's interacted with or been in school with, like has looked past color. Like even when they're throwing shots at each other, like color, religion never really gets brought up. It's all about just like something goofy you might have done, or like things that are like okay, I guess, to talk about.
yeah,
And that's been the trend with the rest of my kids here.
mm,
So I have a lot of hope. And again, it could just be the microcosm that I live in, but I have a lot of hope from at least that racial perspective that these kids, the way they're developing, there's a sense of empathy around like the, I'd say just generally like cultural differences, and they're more accepted than than they were at least when I was coming up. Like that was,
Yeah.
if you were, I don't know, Pakistani, like you were getting a certain type of heat
Yeah.
because of
No,
some of
I
the
got you.
stereotypes associated.
I got you. Yeah, I think they're probably a little more and we're still trying to figure it out because again, we're coming from LA,
Yeah.
Spanish immersion public school, pretty diverse, kind of a different flow. Now we're in the South,
Right.
and so culturally different. Uh,
They move different than what you guys are used to.
totally moved different, and it's the area we were in. I'd say like just generally speaking, it's like I don't know 50-50 black and white, and then well maybe 40-40 black and white, and then 10% maybe Latino, Asian,
Right.
that kind of thing. um so yeah, I mean it seems like everyone at the school that when you're looking at it, everyone seems to kind of like roll together, and you see different folks talking to each other and that kind of thing. So it seems welcoming in that respect.
Mm.
But I don't
Yeah.
know, but then when he comes home and he kind of tells me like so and so said this and I heard them saying this, and
Right.
I'm like, okay, so
It doesn't look
where
the way it really goes down.
where is that coming from? They're learning it from somewhere,
Right.
right?
Right.
So where does that come from? Um
Yeah.
and so that's also the other piece is like, okay, like is it coming from siblings, older siblings? Is it coming from the family, the household? Is that, I don't know. At least with the folks that I'm encountering down here with parents and everything, everyone's cool, like chill, but that seems like it's there's only certain amount of area, like a certain amount of topics that the parents will talk about, right? There's a lot of, it seems like,
Gray area.
yeah, a lot of like, which is fine with me.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Like
cool.
I don't need to know the ins and the outs
But it's
of stuff.
noticeable. Like you could see, yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like no one's really putting their cards on the table about not just
Yeah.
race, but politics,
Politics,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, everything,
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, it might be a
it's
good thing. But
interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
huh.
Yeah. So
Did I tell you about my college situation? Not college situation, but I made it sound like it's a drama thing. But my daughter's looking at colleges.
yeah, yeah.
Did we talk about it here? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know how in depth we got into it, but I know you went
Anyway,
on some
just a
trips.
tidbit.
Yeah.
Just a tidbit. Yeah, we're making the rounds. We've visited 5 schools. She's visited 5 schools already. Um, the the long and short of it is like it's we we're trying to make her decide or allow her the freedom to figure out what the right fit is for her.
Yeah.
But my wife's not like allowing her to do what comes naturally, good or bad. Right.
Hmm.
My wife is trying to like essentially force my daughter to like be regimented about the process. And I'm like, yo, like how often does that work? And I like it never works. So I'm like, yo, just let her figure it out. Like if
Yeah.
she decides that, yo, I'm gonna be last minute for everything and I'm gonna let the opportunity slip by, that's on her. And I kind of joke with her. I'm like, yo, the community college is down the street, bro. Like,
Right.
don't bash the community college.
Hmm.
Like you could make there's tons of examples of people who did well coming out
Yeah.
of community college, but it's gonna be determined based on like how you prioritize and what you care about.
Yeah.
And so the lesson that we're trying to teach her now is like, but I'm kind of like hands off. I'm just like, yo, look, here's my suggestion. I think that's how you should kind of navigate this, but you should go with your gut. I'm out. But when you need me, call me
Right.
and I'll help. But if you don't need me, I'm not showing up. And
Uh,
one of the college advisors was like, a parent's job when their kid is looking at schools is to be seen and not heard,
There you go.
and drive them to wherever the fuck they need to go. That's
Right.
it.
Yep.
So that's what I'm doing.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
They're putting their grown up pants on.
that's it, man.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're gonna be living in your house for 45 years.
Mhm.
Can't do it. Not the kid. All right, y'all.
All right.
It was a pleasure seeing you again, Mr. K.
Yep. Same.
All right.
All right, man.
Y'all be good. Parent them kids appropriately, y'all. And hopefully we'll catch y'all next week. Peace.
Later.